More Adventures of the Great Brain by John D. Fitzgerald. Illustrated by Mercer Mayer. The Time Papa Got Lost. Part 1. When school starts, a fellow always feels as if the summer vacation will never come. He starts by counting the months until the Christmas holidays. Then he starts counting the weeks until May. Then he starts counting the days, and each day seems as long as those months before the Christmas holiday. But there is one good thing about the sun that parents and teachers can't do a darn thing about. It comes up every morning, and it sets every night. Nobody can stop that wonderful last day of school from coming around at last. Tom graduated from the 6th grade. I graduated from the 4th grade. I guess Mr. Standish thought he was the greatest teacher in the world when he announced that he would start Dottie in the 3rd grade next fall. Mr. Standish had to teach all 6 grades, and I doubt if Dottie would ever have made it if it hadn't been for Tom tutoring her. She learned more from Tom during a half hour in the evening than she learned in school all day. But Tom seemed satisfied to let the teacher take all the credit. He had his dollar. Dottie had turned into a real girl except when it came to writing star, and she made friends with girls her age, even though they weren't in the same grade. I guess she made friends so easily because she was sort of a celebrity. She was the only girl in town who had whipped a boy bigger than her in a fair and square fight. The dresses Mama made for Dottie made her one of the best dressed girls in town, and she learned how to play jacks, hopscotch, jump the rope, and even to play with dolls. 2 days after our school let out, Swin came home from the Catholic Academy. I was never so disappointed in my life. He sure had changed since Christmas. He was wearing long trousers with the suit Mama had sent him for Easter, and he started off by calling Papa Dad and Mama Mom. Well, that was all right with me because it didn't seem to bother our parents. But then he started calling Tom and me Old Man instead of by our initials. That was going too far. Tom and I were trying to be nice to him on his first evening at home. "You can ride my bike whenever you want," Tom said generously. "Thanks, old man, but that's kid stuff," Swin said. "Want to see my jumping frog?" I asked. "Thanks, old man, but that's kid stuff," Swin said. That got me. "I'm not an old man," I said. "I'm just a kid." "It's an expression us city folk use," Swin said with a laugh. Papa, Mama, and Aunt Bertha began to laugh too. I knew right then I'd have to put up with Swin calling me old man all summer. This was bad enough, but the day after he got home, Swin pulled the dirtiest trick he could on Tom and me. He started going with a girl, and of all the girls he had to pick, it was that stuck-up Marie Vincent. If ever a fellow felt like disowning a brother, it was me. All I heard from my friends was, "Swin's got a girl, Swin's got a girl." If Swin wanted to disgrace me and Tom, why couldn't he have kicked a dog or beat up an old lady or something not as bad as going with a girl? A few days after Swin had arrived, Papa told us we would leave on Monday for our annual camping trip. At least for a week I'd get out of town, where I was now known along with Tom as the kid who had a brother who was going with a girl. Papa announced the trip on Saturday during supper. "I've closed the Advocate for a week," he said. "We will leave early Monday morning." "Where are we going this year?" Tom asked eagerly. Why not up Beaver Canyon where we went last year?" Papa asked. "The fishing was excellent and the hunting very good." We left Aidenville early Monday morning. Tom and I rode on the seat of the buckboard of Papa, who was driving our team of Bess and Dick. We had all our supplies and tents securely fastened to the bed of the buckboard and back of the seat. Swin rode Dusty. We traveled a logging road along the foothills of the Wasatch Range of mountains until we came to the mouth of Beaver Canyon. The canyon got its name from the beaver dam at the head of the river that flowed down the canyon. We watered the horses and then ate the lunch Mama had prepared for us. I stuffed myself on the fried chicken, hard-boiled eggs, bread and butter sandwiches, cake and pie that Mama had put in a cardboard shoebox. I knew from experience this would be our last bite of good cooking until we returned home. When we had eaten all we could, Papa stood up and patted his stomach. "No sense in going on a fishing and camping trip if you don't rough it," he said. "Throw away what you can't eat, boys." The only food Papa allowed us to keep was flour, salt, and pepper, a sack of potatoes, bacon, a case of pork and beans, a small sack of onions, sugar, coffee, cans of condensed milk, and a small sack of dried beans. We expected to arrive at our destination in time to catch a mess of fish for supper. I was admiring the canyon as we drove up it. Pine and cedar trees were intermingled with aspen and cottonwood. Some of the trees were growing out of cracks in the cliffs and ledges. There were wild flowers. All of them had a great smell you never got in town. Blue jays cawed at us, and we could hear mountain canaries singing. Papa seemed much more concerned about the road. "This road looks well-traveled compared with what it was last year," he said. "Maybe they have put on more men at the logging camp on top of the plateau," Tom said. "I doubt it," Papa said. "You can see this road has been traveled by buggies, wagons, and buckboards." We discovered why the road was so well traveled when we arrived at the place where we had camped last year. There were buggies, wagons, buckboards, tents, and people all over the place. "What in the name of Jupiter are all these people doing here?" Papa demanded, as if they were all poaching on his private property. "With all the places there are to fish in Utah, why did everybody who owns a fishing pole suddenly decide to choose this particular place?" It wasn't hard for a fellow with a little brain like me to figure out. The year before, we brought home about 4 dozen beautiful rainbow and German brown trouts packed in wet mud and grass. Papa had insisted we lay them out on our front lawn to wash off the mud and grass with the hose. A big crowd gathered on the sidewalk in front of our house. I remembered how Papa had told them about his perfect place to fish in Beaver Canyon. Tom had been thinking the same thing. "Maybe you shouldn't have told so many people about this place last year," he said. "Well, you would think people would have the decency to respect a man's private fishing and camping ground," Papa said. Papa could certainly exaggerate. It was public land, and all those people had as much right to be there as we did. We found a place to camp and pitched our tent. Then we went fishing, but the water was muddy from the rainstorm further up the canyon. We didn't even get a bite. We ate a supper of cold pork beans out of cans and sourdough biscuits we baked in our Dutch oven.